Coast Guard. And the Air Force.
Happy Veterans Day out there, Liquid Trucking. What is good? Welcome into our very special Veterans Day episode here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast. I'm so excited about this. I just want to tell you what you just heard there. That was the Armed Forces Medley that was performed by the President's Own U.S. Marine Band. That was actually back at the University of Georgia's Performing Arts Center in 2016 with Lieutenant Colonel Jason K. Fettig conducting that. And I thought that one was really cool because they announce each one of the branches. And it's funny there because, hey, they didn't announce the Marines. How come we didn't hear Marines? Well, that round of applause you heard without an introduction towards the end before all the music actually ended was when all of the Marines in the band actually stood up. And I think that was kind of them announcing themselves rather than having the MC announce for them. So very cool stuff there. If you like patriotic music, if you like any type of marching type stuff, the President's Own U.S. Marine Band does a phenomenal job. We've played them before on Veterans Day and kind of, 4th of July themed episodes, kind of real American themed episodes here on the podcast. And they never miss. It's a bunch of really talented musicians, and happy that we're able to play some of that today on our Veterans Day episode. And we are making today all about vets. I want you to head over right now to liquidtrucking.com and click my face where it says start here. It says check out our brand new podcast. That's going to take you to the podcast landing page where you click start here. And there on the podcast landing page is where you're going to be able to find a ton of pictures that Liquid drivers sent in to me because we asked them, hey, send in some pictures of your time in the military if you would like to. And they did. They came out, man. We got quite a few of them. It looks like I've got pictures here. I want to say thanks to Michael Harris. He was a vet of the Navy. Randy Coburn, an Army Ranger. Robert Davis in the Army. Shelton Griffith in the Marines. Really cool stuff here, guys, and I can't thank you enough. And we're going to keep that up there, okay? Just because Veterans Day is in a couple of days after you hear this episode doesn't mean that we're not still taking pictures. So go ahead and send an email over to podcast@liquidtrucking.com with a picture of you in it. It doesn't have to be a picture of you in uniform. We would love that if you've got one to send. But if you don't, feel free to send us any pictures that you've got. We're happy to share them. All I ask is that you just let me know in the email what branch of the military you served in so I can give you the credit for being in that branch. And it's really cool, man. You know, there's some of the pictures aren't even of soldiers themselves. Some of the pictures are actually of like a bombing that happened in Beirut that Randy Oakes sent us. And actually, on that note, I do want to read something that Randy Oakes sent us. And I wanted to read this because he sent it, and I could tell that there was some sincerity behind it. And I want to give it some time here because I'm going to try to keep this episode as positive and as happy as we can be. But it's Veterans Day. We're celebrating people that fought in wars to protect our freedoms. We're celebrating all of them that have ever been since 1776 and even before then, because the Marines, of course, founded in 1775, I do believe. So I want to make sure that we keep a positive vibe around here, but I also want to make sure that we're not making room for any of the stuff that might not be so happy-go-lucky that we need to hear about today. And that's kind of what I got here out of Randy's email. And I'm going to read it to you verbatim so that you can hopefully feel what I felt when I saw this one come through. The email subject is the Beirut barracks bombing. Randy says, quote, "I don't give a damn about seeing me, my picture, or any of that happy horse shit. Honor my brothers that died in 1983. Early that Sunday morning, the first suicide bomber detonated a truck bomb at the building serving as a barracks for the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, Battalion Landing Team, BLT-18. This is the 2nd Marine Division, killing 220 Marines, 18 sailors, and 3 soldiers, making this incident the deadliest single-day death toll for the United States Marine Corps since the Battle of Iwo Jima in World War II. And the deadliest single-day death toll for the United States Armed Forces as a whole since the first day of the Tet Offensive in the Vietnam War. Another 128 Americans were wounded in the blast. 13 later died of their injuries, and they are counted among the number who died. An elderly Lebanese man, a custodian/vendor who was known to work and sleep in his concession stand next to the building, was also killed in the first blast. The explosives used were later estimated to be equivalent to as much as 12,000 pounds of TNT. Randy Oakes, ComSec, ComNav, Micro Miniature Repair, H&MS 31, Mag 31, 3rd Marine Air Wing, Beaufort, South Carolina, Fleet and Mine Warfare Training Center, Charleston, South Carolina, Yellow Water Nuclear Repository, Jacksonville, Florida, Raven Rock, Site R, Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, 2nd Marine Division, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, 1980 to 1986. Randy, I can't thank you enough for sending that in. And, Randy declined to come on the podcast, and we're totally fine with that. I appreciate stuff like this. I know that doing what I do for a living isn't for everybody. And although I would love to give each and every one of you veterans that want the time, all the time that you need, I understand that a lot of you guys aren't going to want the time, and I'm not offended by that. I don't take it personally. I totally get it. This just isn't for everybody, and especially not on Vets Day or around Vets Day and discussing these things. I get it, and I hope everybody knows out there that I don't hold it against you. And if you ever want to tell me no for coming on this podcast, regardless of whether it's Veterans Day or any other thing that we might be talking about, please understand that I do understand, and I'm okay with it, and I won't hold it against you if you want to come back on the podcast sometime later. So big thanks to Randy there for sending that in, and thanks to all the other vets that sent their pictures in. Again, Shelton Griffith, the Marines, Robert Davis in the Army, Randy Coburn in the Army, Michael Harris in the Army, and of course we got 2 pictures from that Beirut barracks bombing that came in from Randy Oakes as well. So go over to liquidtrucking.com, click my face, and get to the podcast landing page. That's where you can see all those pictures. And anybody that's out there that's a vet said, hey, I want to throw my picture up there, go ahead and send it to us right now. We're going to keep this up all month. you can email me, podcast@liquidtrucking.com. So what else are we getting into in this episode? Well, I'm really excited about that, actually, because coming up right here around the corner, I've got two vets that decided to come on here and talk to me, and we're going to get into everything about their military service. We're going to talk about their history, what made them decide to jump in and sign and enlist, how it changed them, what Veterans Day means to them, and what things they learned during being enlisted that they still apply to their everyday life. I'm going to talk to Tony Brown and Mark Ison, and it's a really good conversation. It's a long conversation, but I think that's warranted on a day like today, where we spend some time actually digging in and listening with intent to what these guys have to say. Because look, I'll say it to them during the interview, I'm sure, but this was not me. I didn't have the fortitude, man. I couldn't have signed those papers, even if I wanted to. I wasn't brave enough. And I just wasn't willing to make the sacrifice. And I know that so many of you out there are. And today's your day. We want to honor you here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast. And thank you all for your service to this great nation as we celebrate Vets Day. So without further ado, let's turn it over to a couple Liquid drivers that spent some time with me here. About 40 minutes, actually. So strap in. This is a real good conversation with Tony and Mark from Liquid Trucking.
Welcome to the gold standard of podcasts for the gold standard of drivers. This is the Liquid Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Joining me next here on our Veterans Day special, I've got a couple of veterans that are both Liquid Trucking drivers, and I'm very happy to have them here. First up, making yet another appearance on the show, it's my good buddy, Tony Brown. Tony, thanks so much for being here. Veteran of which branch of the military?
U.S. Army.
Thank you for your service, my friend, and thank you for being here with us today on this very special episode. We're excited to have you.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
And making his first appearance on the podcast, also very excited to have him on, it's Mark Ison. Mark, thank you so much for being here, my friend. What branch of the military did you serve?
U.S. Army.
U.S. Army as well. Well, thank you for your service, my friend, and thank you for being here today. We appreciate you making your first appearance on the podcast, especially on such a heavy episode, a monumental episode for us.
Thank you.
So let's just go ahead and start out from the top here, fellas. Tony, I'll start with you. Walk me through. You already said you served in the U.S. Army. Did you jump into the Army right out of high school? How did it start for you? And kind of what was your gig when you were in there?
Okay, so yeah, we talked about this on the 4th of July special.
Yep.
But yeah, I enlisted. I was actually 17 when I first enlisted. I was a junior in high school. My mom had to sign a waiver. I went to basic training between my junior and senior year, went back after basic training, did my senior year of high school, graduated, and immediately left, shipped out for AIT. And then from there, I did about 9 years in the reserves and then spent the last 12 of my career at the AGR, which is Active Guard Reserve, basically the active duty side of the reserves, still Title 10. Federal orders, just like active component, only you work for the reserves.
Okay.
And did that until I retired in 2020.
Wow, and that's pretty much bringing you to present day. That's about when you started your career with Liquid Trucking?
I started driving for Liquid Trucking January of 21, because I'm going on 3 years with Liquid Trucking.
Okay, so you spent about a year, doing something else before you started up with Liquid then?
Yeah, whenever I first retired, I actually, so I was a motor sergeant when I retired from the Army. I actually went to work for another large trucking company as the director of maintenance operations. I was there, I took about 3 months after I retired, took about 3 months off, then went to work for this other large trucking company down in Oklahoma that's recently been bought out by an even bigger trucking company. They rhyme with Hirschbach.
Oh, okay. I'll grind on that later when I'm thinking about this. All right. I bet you I can come up with who that is.
Yeah. But I worked for the one down in Oklahoma before they were bought out. And then worked for them for about 3 months. Realized I didn't want to go back to office jobs like I was doing as, being director of maintenance operations for that company was just like being a motor sergeant in the Army. Only it was on a civilian scale versus military scale.
So you can't even tell them to do push-ups if they do something wrong.
Yeah, that was the problem. But at least I could fire somebody. I couldn't fire anybody in the Army.
Yeah,
I could at least fire them, on the civilian side. And I only had to do that once in 3 months. I had to fire one guy. But now I realized I really didn't care for that, and decided to go ahead and pursue one of the other dreams I had always had when I was a kid of, either being a soldier or being a truck driver. Well, I'd been a soldier for 21 and a half years, almost 22, and decided, you know what, let's go be a truck driver. So I went and went to school, got my CDL, ran local for about 6 months, and saw an ad for Liquid Trucking on Facebook, and was, checking them out and everything. I was like, that's just too good to be true. And I made the phone call, was talking to him. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. And I've been here since January 1st of 21.
Well, that's awesome, Tony, and thanks for reading us into your history there. I do have a couple follow-up questions before I'm going to turn the same question over to Mark and get his history. But first question was, going into basic training between your junior and senior year of high school, how intimidating was that? Because a lot of these guys that are going to go through basic training have either been out of high school for a little bit or are just graduating. Did you have like an underclassman feel at all? Were you intimidated by everybody there being older than you, or did you take to it pretty well?
No, I took to it real well because I actually turned 18 right before I left for basic. And then, so I fit in real well, knowing I wasn't the only one also that was in the same situation I was, as far as doing what was called the split op program, which went to basic training between your junior and senior. You graduated, then you went back, graduate your senior year, then you go into AIT. So, but I wasn't the only one there. I actually fared really well, and I came back, and it actually really helped me out because I'm huge into football. I love playing football. So when I came back after basic training, I was in prime condition for 2 days and leading into fall ball.
Your senior year of football. That's really cool. So my last follow-up question here, and then we'll get to Mark, is how excited were you for your entire senior year to just get behind you at that point? Because you mentioned that one of your dreams was to be a soldier. So you're literally following your dreams, but you got to get 9 months of senior high school out of the way first. What was that like?
It wasn't bad. I'd already completed most of my curriculum through school. So whenever I came back, really the only thing I had to focus on was football. I only had a couple of electives I really had to focus on. And then once football season was done, it was just finishing out a couple of curriculums. And so it was pretty easy for me. I was stoked. I was ready to be done with it because I was ready to further on with my career. Even though, like I said, I was just going to be in the reserves. I already had a full-time job lined out as a welder. So I was ready to go.
You were ready to go.
I was excited.
That'd be nice, man. I mean, I do remember my senior year class schedule was like ceramics, band, study hall, choir, gym, study hall. So I guess having something like that to look forward to and being certain of your future is probably a cool thing to feel as an 18-year-old, because I had no idea what was going to happen after I graduated. So it's pretty cool you had it all figured out.
Yeah, it was. I was looking forward to what life was going to be ahead of me.
Very cool. Mark, I want to kind of get the same stuff from you. Did you enlist in the Army right after you got out of high school, or did you even before you got out of high school? How did you go about your enlistment, and then what was your job when you were serving?
No, I enlisted when I was 20 years old, about March of '89. I went into as a truck driver for the Army. Went to basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And then I also did my advanced training also in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. When I enlisted, I took 2 years in Germany. went over in Germany and did my tour over there. I did it for an infantry group. Pretty much a lot of field training, going out with them in the field quite often, and just driving a 5-ton truck transporter.
Okay. So,
And yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, did they ever let you out on the Autobahn with that thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we took we took several trips out there. Even though really you can only go so fast with them trucks anyway. It's about, I think they're about 60, 65 max is about their top speed. So that's all you could get out of them.
Yeah, and I bet you just had people flying by you like they were breaking the sound barrier, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Germans are crazy drivers.
It's probably a lot like your day-to-day today, right? You're out on the freeway and people are just flying by you like you're standing still.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Continue your story.
So yeah, anyway, I did my 2 years. The Army was downsizing at that time. They were wanting to send me to Fort Bragg, either to finish my service there, or they also were offering 1 year. Either you did 3 years or you did 1 year before your service ended. So mine was for 4 years. Offering to get out of the military at that time. So I took that offer. So I did my 3 years. And at that time, I was dating a German lady, and we had a son on the way, and we were planning to get married. So I was kind of trying to get that going through the Army, trying to get married through the Army before I took off to Bragg. And so I did community, basically. I just stayed and made an extension there in Germany until I could get that going through, and just fall out of guard duty and clean up of the post. They were transitioning. They were getting rid of the post. They were going to give it back over to the Germans. So a lot of cleaning to do. And once that took place, I switched posts to Stuttgart, Germany. The original post was Göppingen, Germany. Switched over to Stuttgart and then finished up all my paperwork. And we never did get married at that time. We were still waiting on some stuff. We decided, hey, maybe I'm just going to stay in Germany for a while. And I did that. I was working as a civilian over there. And I stayed until 2009. 2009. My wife and me were going through some hardships and problems. We're going through divorce. And 2009, I came back over here. I started working for my father. He owned a chemical company, applying fertilizer and chemical in the fields. And I did that for a while. I picked up trucking again with him about 2014, hauling corn, doing a lot of that, hauling corn and beans and DDG and whatever else they could get for me. My dad was going to go into retirement about 2017. I switched over to a company called Power Only. They were a dry van trailer company. I did that for about 4 or 5 years with them. And I switched over to a tanker company, winery company in Hinton, Iowa. I did that for about 6 months. The pay was pretty crappy. And I was kind of like Tony, I was, seeing ads, saw one for liquid trucking, and I was really impressed with the pay and the insurance, the health insurance. And then a call. I'm working for him now.
Yeah, the rest is history. With them ever
since. That's right. I've been with them ever since June 28th of 2020.
Very cool. And tell me, Mark, what did you, when you were living in Germany, just working as a civilian over there, were you driving truck there as well, or did you get into something else while you were over there?
I tried to do truck driving, but it's pretty tough to do. You got to go through school over there for that stuff, and I didn't know the language enough, so I got into what I could find. I did construction over there for a while. There was a guy who owned a company that he was he was born there, but his father was American, so he knew both English and German. So
Perfect.
that was helpful for me. So I did construction for quite a few years, and then after that I got into milling, CNC milling,
Mhm.
and that was all until I left.
Okay. So what was your favorite part about living in Germany when you kind of compare it to your time living in the United States?
Well, the food over there is exciting. You have to see. I mean, there's a whole lot of different cultures that live there in Germany. It's not just German people. It's Italians, Turkish. There's Africans, there's Russians. Just about any European nation works out of Germany. They pay is better in Germany, and so they work there. And when they retire, they go back to their home countries. So naturally, a lot of these places, they have restaurants all over the place. So that was the opportunity. You could try a lot of different stuff that you never had before. So I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you're speaking my language. I know you're speaking Tony's as well, because Tony likes his time at the kitchen and his time behind the dinner plate. So that's
ain't no lie.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard, though, is I've got some friends that have some German heritage in their family tree, and actually one buddy whose grandparents still live in Germany, and every time he goes over there, he comes back talking about the food. And you just in the echelon of European food, German isn't like, I'm always thinking of Italian or Spanish food or something like that. But no, German food is actually really good, and the beer is just to die for, I hear. I imagine you made your way across a pub or two when you were in Germany, Mark.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah. Do the construction workers drink in Germany as heavy as they do in America?
Oh yeah. The company I worked for, they were kind of bunch alcoholics. So.
Oh no. Well, you made it out. You're back here. Well, that's great, Mark. Well, thanks for filling us in on your backstory there. Very interesting stuff. I've got a few more questions I want to ask you guys here moving forward. And Tony, I'm actually going to go to Mark here with this one because you kind of already answered this, but my question is, what made you decide to join the military? And Tony, for you, it kind of sounded like that had been one of your dreams since you were a kid.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it was just no question, you were doing it. You had made that decision. There was no pushback from mom or dad or anything like that.
I had some pushback from my dad because my dad had been in the Army, had done some time in the Army, then did some time in jail because of what he did while he was in the Army. But
gotcha.
No, so he told me he would disown me if I ever joined the Army, and so I made it a point to join the Army. So that was one of my reasons. And I had an uncle that I looked up to, which was actually my dad's brother, that I looked up to, that had served in the Gulf War, and so him being in the military. I had other family that had been in the military, so I knew that was the path for me.
Okay. And how about you, Mark? You said you didn't join until you were 20. So what was behind the decision to sign the paper and enlist?
I used to work. I worked at like Coke for a while, and it just seemed like either this was going to be my life, just doing that for work, or maybe get into something else. Explore the world, see things, and I just thought, well, that's what I want to do. I want to see things. So that's why I joined the Army.
And how did that experience change you, Mark, when you look back on it now, all these years later?
I definitely loved it. Like I said, not just Germany. You get to explore. I mean, you could travel in Germany. You see other countries, Austria, Denmark, Czechoslovakia, Holland. And you just get to see a lot of different things. I had my chance to go to France. I should have took it, but I didn't.
Yeah, well, if you're going to leave one behind, I guess let it be France, whatever. It's just the tower and that big museum. No, I'm just playing around with anybody that's got French heritage. Just tongue-in-cheek, me messing around there. But I have always found it interesting, Mark, that Europe is a lot like the United States, where rather than going state to state and experiencing the different cultures, it's just like going country to country over there. You can travel for a few hours and have gone through 2 or 3 countries on a high-speed train. It's not really the same as what we're like over here, but you're getting to experience it a lot the same way because you're a truck driver now. So I'm sure your job takes you all over the United States as well.
Yep, that's right. It does. I do a lot of long distance stuff for company.
So are you one of the guys that likes to find interesting places to kind of go adventure on your 34 or anything like that? You know, when you got a 10, are you looking for a place to go take a hike or go look around and see some new viewpoints, or do you pretty much keep it to the truck stop in the truck?
It depends on where I'm at. So I did have the chance to go up. They sent me on one that I had to deliver some alcohol up to northern Michigan, clear up by the Lake Michigan, clear up north. It's just like a little point up there.
Mm-hmm. What do they call that?
I did get to see it.
That's the Upper Peninsula, right?
Yeah, Upper Peninsula. Yeah, it was more north of Traverse City, actually.
Wow,
clear up there.
It's basically Canada.
Well, no, not yet, but it's pretty close. But yeah, I mean, I did some hiking when I got up there in that area. That was pretty interesting, and talked to some people that lived around there. That was pretty cool.
Cool. Well, it's a great job for having a little bit of an explorer's bent about you for sure. It sounds like it's kind of checking that box for you a little bit there, Mark. And I've got some more questions here for you guys. How did, I guess, and Tony, I'll start here with you. How did the experience serving and protecting our freedom change you when you came out? Did you notice a big difference in Tony Brown once you finally wrapped up your career? Because for you, Tony, you spent quite a bit more time in there, so I imagine that might be a little bit harder for you to perceive just because you've been living that life for so long. That was normal. But what was different about you when you came out finally, Tony?
You know what? That wouldn't actually be a question to ask me. That would have to be a question you'd have to ask my family. They noticed most of the changes in me. So I guess I can tell you, some of what they saw. Mm-hmm. They saw, just a huge maturity difference from what I was, of course, as a kid growing up. We get older, we get wiser, but it did a lot for for me personally. It helped me get over some demons that I had when I was younger. I learned how not just to battle, say, the enemy, but I learned how my own personal battles and how to defeat my own demons. The military, and then getting out actually helped me clear up some of my going back to being a civilian, helped me with some of the demons that had started plaguing me while I was in the military. Mm-hmm. I can be the first to admit, while I was active duty, for that last several years, I had a huge drinking problem. And then I met my now current wife within the last 2 years of my career, and she was a big help in helping me see the issue that I had, the relationships that it had destroyed in my past with my children's mothers. And so it's like, you know what? I could see it. And actually, a lot of the stress that I had in the military left me when I came back to being a civilian again. I quit drinking. I've recently quit smoking. I still vape, but I quit smoking. I've actually been tobacco free for going on 6 months now.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, 4 months.
That's great. Hang on just a second. You know what? I got a button for that. We're giving you an applause for that. Tobacco's not an easy one, Tony, and neither is alcohol. So if you're happy to be off of it, we're happy as well, man.
Yeah, I think everybody in the military does smoking. That's just kind of I did it too when I was. You just pick up on it like right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're either you're smoking or you're smoking, dipping, or chewing.
Yep.
But I'll still have, occasionally I will have a drink, but I limit myself to one drink. And it's only at home. So if we go out to dinner or anything like that, that's my wife's turn to get to have her a margarita when we go out to eat, or glass of wine. And then I will save my glass of wine, which is the extent of what I'll drink now, for at home. Because if I've opened up a beer about a month ago and took 3 or 4 drinks out of it, poured it down down the drain because I couldn't stand the taste of it anymore.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you just have a lot more self-discipline. And I mean, listen, if I was going to think the Army would give you something, self-discipline's probably one of the top things I would pick.
That is one of the greatest benefits that I found for the military. Can't say it for everyone, but for myself, yeah, the discipline it's paid off.
For sure. And how about you, Mark? Any big changes that you noticed in yourself from when you enlisted to when you were finished?
For me, it just helped me grow up. I mean, a teenager, I guess, or from a young man to a responsible man. That's pretty much what the Army helped me with.
Mm-hmm.
I did also. I went over to war when I was over there. I did went to Saudi Arabia on the first war with Iraq. Like Tony, I mean, I had a few demons after that. I mean, it was, you're oftentimes, you got missiles coming at you all the time. That was pretty often.
Wow.
And once I got back in Germany, I mean, anytime I would hear some loud boom or anything like that, I would just be like, getting up, looking around, like, what's going on, that's just a normal thing when you're over there.
Wow.
Yep. But otherwise, I mean, the Army just, it helped me grow up, be a more responsible person. And, that's probably the biggest change I saw out of myself.
Sure. Well, gentlemen, you both responded to me about this episode specifically. So this next question that I have for you is definitely, we've been learning about your military experience, learning about how it changed you, what made you decide to go in. And now I want to ask you a question about Veterans Day, and it's a pretty simple one. And Mark, I'll just keep it right here with you. What does Veterans Day mean to you? I'm wondering this because you said, yeah, I'd like to come on the podcast. It's your first time on here. What is it about the day that's important to you, and what are the things that you like to think about on Veterans Day?
It's just a day of honoring those that have served, fought for the country. I mean, our country is, I guess to say it's worth fighting for. I don't know so much about it today, but with what you see going on. But, when I served, it was worth fighting for. And that's what I see Veterans Day as, honoring those that served.
Well said there. How about you, Tony? What is important for you to remember and think about when Veterans Day rolls around each year?
I would just have to double down on what Mark said. I don't think he could have said it much better than that, honestly. It's just honoring all the vets, every branch. It doesn't matter, anyone that served this country that was willing to sign that dotted line and risk it all for the sake of their nation, not knowing which direction the nation could possibly go in the future, but still willing to lay it all on the line. That's what it's for me.
Mm-hmm. Very well said there as well. I didn't serve, obviously. You guys know that about me by now. I did get to serve some veterans food because I used to be what they called an Apple Buddy, which means I worked at Applebee's, your neighborhood-friendly bar and grill. Worst 6-8 months of my life, I'll be honest with you. But the coolest part about working there was that every Veterans Day, we gave away free food to vets and active duty service members. And I almost got fired, actually, because I would sit down and talk to the vets and not care about the rest of the tables that I had, just because I enjoyed sitting down and listening to the stories. And I recently had a Vietnam veteran from the Marines tell me that Vietnam vets in particular, they got spit on when they came back. They got called baby killers and female killers and all the rest of it, child killers. And it was a real counterculture movement back then when the Vietnam War was going on and wrapping up. And of course, there was a lot of people over here that questioned the United States involvement to begin with. And I hear those stories and it makes me just fall apart inside to know that any one of our veterans of this great nation that signed the paper and made the initial sacrifice, or, eventually the ultimate one for a lot of them, could be anything other than welcomed with open arms and adulation when they come back. And I got to be honest with you guys, I heard that and it just kind of bummed me out a little bit for the Vietnam vets. And I wonder, did you guys ever experience any type of venom or anything like that when you came back from any of the conflicts that you were a part of? Or were you generally welcomed back into the society that you reassociated into with open arms? Tony, we'll start with you there on that one.
I would say it was 95% positive when when I returned from both of my tours. Both of those were in Iraq, and then maybe 5% was people telling me, how much they despised me for doing what I did. But of course, I knew what I was doing. My family knew what I was doing, and I didn't care about that other 5%.
Good.
That I didn't let that bother me. Because honestly, it really didn't matter even what all the accolades and attaboys from everyone else. That really didn't matter anyway, because I didn't join for the thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I understand that. It's and being able to build that wall and keep that 5% from affecting you at all it's commendable. I'll just say that. How about for you, Mark? What was your experience? I imagine a little bit different because you didn't come back to the United States right after you got out right away. But what type of reception did you find?
People were happy. Happy I came home safe. And overall, I really didn't get the flack. The bad time or anything. Anybody cursing me or for things I did. Occasionally, Greenpeace is kind of large in Germany. They kind of, have things to say, about people or Americans serving, especially over there in Germany. They don't like it so much. But other than that, I really didn't have a problem with anybody. My dad, he also served in the Army during the Vietnam War, and he got to experience that going on when he came back. And I don't think it really affected him too much. He just disregarded it. Mm-hmm. He went right back. He went right back to Nebraska. Went right back to farming. And I don't think it really bothered him. I think he got over that pretty fast. But yeah, he did say that was, there was a lot of that going on. You come back on the plane and there's people booing you and all kinds of baby killer and you name it. So.
Wow.
Not a good thing.
No.
But I didn't hear none of that when I was coming back.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that, and I'm glad that Tony, even though you did hear some of it, you were able to kind of just block that out. Because listen, there's no room for it. Mark, you touched on something earlier that you said, back when I enlisted, this country was worth fighting for, and sometimes you wonder if that's the case now. And I just hope that everybody listening to this podcast understands that it's that 95% versus that 5%. I really feel like 95% of what goes on in this country is 100% worth fighting for. And then there's that fringe 5% that's the loudest and the noisiest and the ones that make the most trouble. And sometimes I can totally see how that might not feel like it would be worth fighting for. But that kind of brings me to my next question here. And Mark, I'll let you field this one first. Given the chance in 2024, let's take you back and say you're 20 years old again. I've got the papers right there in front of you to sign, but instead of being in the 90s, it's this year. Are you making the same decision? Are you going in?
Yes, I would.
Without even thinking about it there. You didn't even take a beat. You just knew that was the answer.
Yep. I would have done it. If I was 20 years old, and definitely I would have still did it.
Interesting. That's and I guess not interesting. It doesn't surprise me. I will say that. I like that you don't even need to think about it. It's like, well, hey, it's a hypothetical. Of course I would, because I kind of think when I throw this question over to Tony, just knowing about him and his hopes and dreams as a little guy, Tony, we're giving you the paper. You going back in, given the chance?
Oh, without a doubt. There's no question to it. This is the land I love. This is my home. I'll do whatever it takes to protect it.
It sounds like both you guys would. And I got to be honest with you. You're better men than me, head and shoulders beyond. And I got to thank you again for being willing to go in and fight for people like me that don't have the gumption I would have washed out immediately, guys. I would have never had a chance. And, my dad did kind of, as I told you guys earlier, when I was a senior in high school, I really didn't know what was going to happen. I wasn't really applying to colleges yet. I didn't know where. And all of a sudden, my dad comes in kind of, and he's like, hey, have you thought about the ROTC? Like, if you go to college and then get out and join the military? And I thought, there's no way. I don't have it in me. I just am not that guy. And I'm really glad that you guys are that guy. And I can tell just by talking to you, like you said, you do it again, and we'd be happy to have 2 more soldiers like yourselves. I got my last question here, fellas. You've already spent almost 40 minutes with me. I can't thank you enough. But this one is one that when I came up with it, I thought, I want to learn something from these guys here. I want to learn something from your experience, and hopefully the people that are listening right now can learn something from your experience as well. Tony, is there anything that you learned while you were enlisted? And you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but is there anything that you learned while you were enlisted that you still apply to everyday life while out there working for Liquid Trucking?
Personal courage is one of the biggest ones. And when I was younger, as a kid, I was always bullied because I'm only 5'4". I was, I still get picked on. I just got picked on here at the shop, here at the yard because of my size. The guys here in the shop, but they know I fight right back. So it's all fun and games. But the personal courage to stand up for myself, and because when I was a young kid, I was kind of cowardly, and finding that personal courage, and then growing up with an older stepbrother that was just meaner than hell, that beat the crap out of me on a regular basis. I learned how to stand up for myself, and there's nobody bigger than me that scares me anymore. So I have that personal courage to stand up for myself, but I also have the discipline not to take it too far.
Yeah, that's a great one there. I love it. So be confident in what you do, but also be disciplined in using that confidence, I guess, kind of the way you're saying it.
Yeah, because, I have to use my, that self-control and that discipline because I know what I'm capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else that meets me that, never met me before. You see me, this 5'4" statured guy, you don't know what he's capable of, and you take advantage of it. Well, I know what I'm capable of. You may not, but I do. So I have to use my self-discipline to keep it from going too far.
Sure. Well, I'll be honest with you, Tony. I didn't know until today that you were only 5'4". I'm not a tall guy either. I'm only standing about 5'8.5", 5'9". But my philosophy on guys like you is I've met way too many insane chihuahuas in my life to ever think that wouldn't be something that might happen to humans. So I'm not messing with you either way. But that's just me,
Well, yeah, because when I was in, one of my nicknames was Pitbull.
Oh, there you go.
And because I was short, stocky, and I had no neck. And so I was either getting called a bulldog or a pit bull because of my stature. And I have my youngest son, who's about to turn 17, is built just like me.
Oh, really?
And he actually intends to. He's considering joining the Navy and doing what I did in the Army, but on the Navy side. And I fully support him.
How cool. Well, I got to ask you guys this because I was a wrestler, obviously didn't grow past 8th grade, stood 5'9" on my 8th grade basketball team, and I was a wrestler by freshman year of high school. You and your son wrestlers? That's a 5'4" and built like kind of a fire plug. That's a wrestling stature.
I wrestled in high school. I took second in the state of Oklahoma my freshman year.
There you go. See, I kind of figured. That makes more sense. I'm putting you together, Tony. I'm building you in my head. I'm putting you together. All right, Mark, I got the same question for you, my friend. Anything that you learned while you were enlisted that you still apply to daily civilian life while you're working for Liquid Trucking?
I kind of go on what Tony said. A lot of courage, ability to overcome things. I learned that in the Army as well. And I apply that every day also here at Liquid Trucking. Also applying, responsibility, taking responsibility for my actions. That I do as well. So it's, I hold a responsibility to my family to keep the money rolling for them, keep them going. And, I take that very personal.
Sure, and you definitely see, like, I think we all learned that at some point in time, but coming out of military service with it, it seems like a pretty common thing. It seems like, the military's good at teaching you quite a few different things, and that personal responsibility and also that personal confidence seems like two of them that rank up there pretty high, gentlemen, and I just can't thank you enough for coming on and digging in here a little bit with me. I appreciate you all fielding my questions. I do want to make a little bit of time for you, and this episode especially. I always like to give drivers, last thoughts. If you want to say anything to anybody that's listening, whether it be your family, other liquid drivers, or truck drivers in general, or the staff back at the terminal. But today, I want to give you guys all the time you need. It doesn't have to be short. You can take as much time as you want. Tony, I'll start with you. Final thoughts here on our Liquid Trucking Podcast Veterans Day special with a couple of Army vets here.
Okay. So one of the things I kind of wanted to follow up from a moment ago was in the Army, and we had an acronym for leadership. LDRSHIP. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And I still live day to day with leadership. It's going by those core values will take you so far in life. And I strongly encourage everyone to try to live by that set of core values, and you would be remarkably surprised what it will do to you and do for you and for your family and for people that you don't even know what it will do in your life. And I just want to thank this company for, the opportunity they've given me, going on 3 years. I was wrong on my timetable. It wasn't of January of 21. It was January of 22. So I'd correct that there. But regardless, I love it, and allowing me to do what I do out of here on the road, so I have to live by my leadership core values.
Mm-hmm. And hit me with those one more time, Tony, just so I can get those seared into my brain.
Okay. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage.
Very cool. I love that.
And you can actually look that acronym up on Google, and it will explain to you in detail each letter.
Okay, I'll definitely be doing that. Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you for your service. Thank you for always coming on and providing us with fun conversation on the podcast. Mark, we're going to go with you. Final thoughts from you on our Veterans Day episode here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast. I want to thank you for your service first and foremost. Thank you for coming on and spending some time with us today. Anything else that you would like to say before we let you go?
There's really not too much to say that Tony's already said. Other than that, just keep the wheels on the pavement side and just keep going.
Amen to that. Keep that shiny side up and stay safe out there to all of you drivers and all of you vets as well. You're going to want to stick around for this next part of the podcast that's coming up here after I let Tony and Mark go, because I have a list of 100 different places where you veterans can get free food and or free drinks, free desserts, that type of thing. Not only on Veterans Day, but some of the places are offering it for, the entire month. Some places are offering it for the entire week. So stick around after I let these guys get back to their job and hear about all the great places that you can eat for free on Veterans Day. Mark Ison and Tony Brown, I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. Thank you both for your service, and please be safe out there. Take care of yourselves, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, fellas. Happy Vets Day. Great stuff there from Tony and Mark. Just can't thank those guys enough. I know that I said that. That's probably like the fourth time I've repeated that exact same sentence verbatim, but it means a lot to me. Like I said, going back to the beginning, I know that sometimes this stuff isn't easy to talk about. Sometimes it's not easy to reflect and really look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, what did change about me? But Mark and Tony did a great job there, and So grateful to have people like that working at this company. And, guys, there's a lot of them out there. We've spoken to a lot of drivers on this show. Yeah, we've spoken to a lot of drivers more than once, but we've also, when you just look at the swath that we can cut out of drivers that we've spoken to at least one time, we're getting up there in numbers now. And I got to be honest with you, I haven't met a bad egg in the bunch yet. And that goes for the office and the shop as well. That goes for all the guys out there at Bartow. Chris Baltushis running shop out there, holding it down for the underground and doing a great job. That goes for Tank Wash guys. Those are some ones I haven't got to talk to quite yet. We're still trying to figure out how we can get some Tank Wash guys on the show. But if you're out there listening, we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody that flies under the Liquid flag. And to kind of expand on that, we really appreciate everyone that flies that American flag. And again, just because I can't say it enough today, thank you to all of the veterans of Liquid Trucking for your service to our great nation. We wouldn't be where we are without you guys today. And trust me, where we are, you heard Mark kind of talk about it a little bit. Where we are is a little effed up right now, and hopefully with more people like yourselves cranking out into not only our nation's armed forces, but our nation's workforces as well, we'll get this country back to where we know it can all be. It's a fantastic country defended by fantastic people. And without all of our military veterans out there, I don't know where this country would be. The band Ween once said, "You're up shit creek with a turd for a paddle." Maybe somewhere like that. But all jokes aside, I want to get to something very important. And as I said back when I was talking to Mark and Tony, very important to me because I was an Apple buddy, all right? I worked at your neighborhood friendly bar and grill, Applebee's. Hated every minute of it, but it did teach me a lot in that I worked there for actually 2 different Veterans Days. I think it was about 14 months total. I misquoted earlier. I said it was like 8 or 9 months. I wish it was 8 or 9 months. It was 14 months total because I did work 2 separate Veterans Days. And yeah, I almost got fired both times because I sit down and listen to the vets talk, tell stories, just chat them up because, some of them come in there by themselves, and I could tell they were lonely, and I could tell they just wanted somebody to talk to, and other ones would be sitting there with 3 other vets. They're all wearing matching hats, and they're chopping it up and having a great time and laughing and telling stories. Man, I'm there for that. I'll take my apron off and throw it on the ground right here. If you didn't have me wearing these weird non-stick shoes, I'd probably sit down at the table and order up a Caesar salad, but that's why I really think that it's important that I share some of these with you because I want you guys to be able to take advantage of these and actually go out and get some stuff. And I am going to share this list that I've got. It's actually from militarymoney.com. The list is titled 100 plus Veterans Day military deals and discounts for 2024. We'll have them put that up there on the website. So if you go click the Start Here button with my face on it at liquidtrucking.com and get over to our podcast page, you'll find this over there so that you can access it and find this list of all these great places. I guess first and foremost, it should be important to tell you guys that a lot of these places are going to require you to prove that you are indeed a veteran. And that's pretty easy to do for you guys. If you're not trying to go all stolen valor and then you probably know what you need to prove that. But I'm just going to give you a little list here since this provides it. A veteran ID card issued by the Department of Veteran Affairs, Uniform Services ID card, Common Access card, veterans designation on a state driver's license or ID works, dependent ID card, DD Form 214 is the discharge form used to access VA benefits, and of course a Department of Defense Form 2, the form that identifies service members as reserved, retired, or reserve retired. So that's how you prove to these guys that you are who you say you are. And what are they going to give you? Well, it depends on where you're at. We can start at 7-Eleven. Free coffee or Big Gulp. You got to sign in or register with 7 rewards. This is for veterans and active duty members. Applebee's, of course, on the list, man. They got a free meal off of a special menu for vets and active duty military. That's all day on Veterans Day. Bob Evans got a special free menu for all veterans. Buffalo Wild Wings, B-dubs. I'm a big wing guy. To be honest with you, Buffalo Wild Wings are not my favorite wings. We got a couple of really good local spots here in town, but I do love me some Buffalo Wild Wings. And if I'm out in a place where I don't know anything or anybody and there's a B-dubs, Guess where your boy's watching the game? That's right. What can you get at Buffalo Wild Wings? Free order of boneless wings with a side of fries for all veterans, active duty, military, both dine in and take out at all participating locations in the U.S. No, this is not an advertisement. How about Chili's? You like your baby back ribs? Me too. Free meal from a special menu for the veterans and active duty military on Vets Day. Cracker Barrel in-store specials on November 11th for veterans, including a free slice of double fudge Coca-Cola cake with your meal. Shut the hell up. That's got to be like 14,000 calories. Put it in my face. This promotion actually goes through November, which is Military Appreciation Month. And it is organized to support military families in partnership with Operation Homefront. So Cracker Barrel doing some good stuff. You know, they just closed the Denny's in Pendleton, Oregon, and it was like big news in Pendleton. And I feel bad. I ate a lot of meals at that Denny's during state basketball and wrestling tournaments and the like, but it's closed. But if you have a Denny's, they are doing some stuff. Free build your own Graham Slam breakfast from 5 a.m. until noon on Vets Day. That's the 11th for vets and active duty military. That's pretty cool. Build your own Grand Slam. Can I get a cheeseburger on third base? I'm trying to make out like a bandit here. I'm trying to leave this place in the black, not in the red. So build your own Grand Slam. How about IHOP? Free red, white, and blueberry pancakes. I love that. Give me some of that patriotism on a plate. That's free for veterans, active duty military, all locations for dine-in customers. You can get a free meal at IKEA. I knew they served frozen meatballs there, or like they sold frozen meatballs there. I didn't know IKEA actually had like a restaurant. I've never been to an IKEA, and I'm not altogether disappointed about it. But if you are around one on Vets Day, you can go get a free meal at IKEA and a cheap desk or something. I don't know what you buy at IKEA. I've never been there. Let's keep moving on. Krispy Kreme, free donut and coffee. I mean, what's more American than a free donut and coffee for vets on Vets Day at Christmas Kreme? Sign me up. Christmas Kreme? Krispy Kreme. Nice job, Marcus. How about Little Caesars? Free lunch combo from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for vets and active duty military at participating locations. Morton's the Steakhouse in the Northeast states and Georgia. I know some of you get out there. 20% off. Valid for parties up to 4 for veterans and active duty military. That's not the greatest deal, but you're also at Morton's Steakhouse, so you probably expected to spend a little bit of cash. So, I mean, check it out. Olive Garden, the OG, free entree from a special menu, and they definitely include breadsticks in your choice of super salad for vets and active duty military. Yeah, that would be super underhanded, Olive Garden, if you're like, yeah, vets, come on in. We got you a free meal on Vets Day, and then you took away the salad and breadsticks. I will fight a hostess, or a host, I guess. I wouldn't fight a female. I wouldn't fight a male either. I might throw a breadstick at him, but not if I paid for it. How about Perkins? Free Magnificent 7 breakfast meal for vets and active duty. Man, we've got so many. I mean, I'm not even halfway through this. Red Lobster, free appetizer or dessert for vets and a 10% discount for veterans or active duty military. Red Robin, yum. This is New England, New Jersey, and New York Red Robins. You can get a free Red Robin Tavern double burger and bottomless steak fries November 1st through the 14th. That's pretty cool. 2 weeks worth of it, both dine in and take out. So take advantage of that for sure. Shoney's free all you care to eat breakfast until 11 a.m. for vets and active duty military. Shoney's never been. Got a soft spot in my heart though because I'm a big Rick and Morty fan. But I'd like to know what a Shoney's is all about. So maybe sometime I get out there in the Midwest, you guys can take me out, show me around town, get me to Shoney's. Travel Centers of America, free meal for vets and active duty military at participating locations. I hate reading that because I want to hear at all locations, but it's only at participating. So if you're traveling by a TA, you're going to swing in there and take a quick break or something like that. It's worth your time to swing in and at least see on Vets Day if you can get yourself something for free. I was wondering if Pilot had anything, but I'm not seeing it. Petro and TA stopping centers have a free meal from a special menu, including a beverage, at participating Country Pride and Iron Skillet restaurants for vets and active duty military and reservists. I like that they're mentioning reservists there because that's an important part of what's going on. Man, I didn't see. Oh, Hard Rock Cafe, free legendary steak burger for vets and active duty military on November 11th, plus a 15% military discount year round. If you're a Hard Rock Cafe guy like I am, definitely stop in there and get yourself a steak burger. Shut the front door. Texas Roadhouse, free meal voucher for veterans. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. You got to hit that one during the window. That's like the cable companies coming over to your house. 11 to 2. We'll be there sometime to pick up a free meal voucher to Texas Roadhouse. That one's worth it. Have you guys tried that butter that they have there? It's like cinnamon compound butter. Oh, my God. Wendy's, free small breakfast combo, no purchase necessary. That's for vets and active duty. Check that out. White Castle. You all saw the movie. I saw it. I know. I was in the second one. I'm just joking. Free breakfast combo or castle combo 1 to 6 for veterans active duty. So they're saying the castle combos number 1 through number 6. You can get any of those for free. That's good variety at a White Castle. And finally, American Legion, VFW, and other veterans organizations, as well as churches, Elks Lodges, community nonprofits, and more, host special breakfasts, lunches, and dinners on and around Veterans Day, at which veterans eat for free. Check your local listings to see what's cooking in your area. And then a few things that aren't food, okay? Because, listen, great that there's all that food and drinks and coffee and donuts. We love it. But how about some other things? You know, goods, services, that type of thing? Well, I got it. Bed Bath & Beyond, 25% off your in-store purchases on November 11th for vets and active duty service members. If you're missing, like, travel items, like, you know, toiletries, stuff like that, Bed Bath & Beyond has a fantastic travel aisle. Like, it's a full wall, and it's all of just the little mini things. They travel great, and there's a ton of variety there. You get 25% off of their already great prices. And no, this also is not a Bed Bath & Beyond advertisement. They closed the one here in Eugene. It's just Beyond now. There's no bed or bath. There's just nothing, which I would assume is what that Beyond section always looked like. Dell Electronics give you a 10% discount for vets on November 11th purchases. You know, for computer, 10% can add up for sure. You're going to spend $1,000. Might as well save $100. How about Sports Clips? That's where I get my hair cut. What remains of it, that's where I get it cut, and then I hide it under a hat. But they do great haircuts there, and you get to sit there and watch sports the whole time, and then they do this hot towel massage thing where they put a hot towel over your face, and they massage your scalp, and they give you a face massage, and they wash your hair. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Free haircuts for vets and active duty military at some locations. You can go to this website at militarymoney.com that I'm going to put up on the Liquid Trucking Podcast landing page and click the link for participating locations. And Target is offering a 10% discount covering your full basket, excluding only certain items. You can use the discount twice during the promotional period from October 30th to November 12th. So look at that. You go into Target twice during a 2-week period, you get 10% off your entire basket. There are worse deals out there. And also, I know we just had an episode of this podcast here a couple weeks ago where we talked about cool places to spend your 34s, right? Well, I also have some places that are giving you free admittance on Veterans Day, like Colonial Williamsburg, free admission for vets, active duty, and families on Veterans Day weekend. The Country Music Hall of Fame, veterans, active duty military, and up to 3 guests admitted for free on November 11th. The Crayola Experience in Plano, Texas, free admission for vets and active duty military throughout the month of November. And family members get 25% off. That's awesome. The Harley-Davidson Museum out in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Free admission to vets and active duty military on November 11th. The Maine Wildlife Park. Wildlife Park in Gray, Maine, run by the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, offers free admission to vets and active duty and their families on November 11th, the day that it closes for the season. So last day that you can head out to the Maine Wildlife Park. Alabama, California, Florida, and Washington state parks are admission free on November 11th. Check with your states to see whether there is a Veterans Day discount or deal, because many have year-round deals for vets who are residents of the state, disabled, or former POWs. All U.S. national parks and historic sites managed by the National Park Service will have free admission for all visitors on November 11th. That's cool. Many zoos across the country offer free admission as well as discounts or free admission to family members. Let's see here. The Akron Zoo, if you're vet or active duty, you get in for free. Family members get 50% off. Baton Rouge Zoo, free admission for vets and active military on November 5th. Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens, free admission for vets, active duty, reservists, National Guard, and ROTC, and up to 6 half-off admission tickets for family members. New Zoo and Adventure Park in Green Bay, free admission to vets and active duty, military, and their families. North Carolina Zoo, free admission to vets, active duty, and 1 guest during Military Appreciation Week, which runs from the 7th, which is tomorrow, to the 13th of November. Port Defiance Zoo and Aquarium, vets admitted free and immediate family members 50% off. Zoo Miami, vets admitted free from the 10th of November through the 13th, with up to 6 family members for 25% off. And Zoo New England, veterans and immediate family members admitted free to the Franklin Park Zoo in Boston and the Stone Zoo in Stoneham, Massachusetts. I didn't get through all 100 of them, but that's a pretty damn good chunk. And now you know where you can go and get some free stuff. Consult this podcast episode or head on over to liquidtrucking.com, click Get Started on the podcast page, and you will find this website. I highly recommend getting there on your phone, navigating to it, and then just leaving the window open so that when you're driving down the road and you pull off for a stop, you can look at your phone, you can look at the map, you can see if there's anything around you, and maybe you can score some free stuff. Listen, it ain't cheap out there, and I know that a lot of you guys cook a lot of meals in your trucks while you're OTR, but every now and then, you don't want to cook. You want to go and have a meal someplace, and during Military Appreciation Week, the month of November, or Veterans Day, there's a lot of places that'll hook you up for free if you just prove to them that you're vet or active duty. Happy Veterans Day to all of you out there, everyone listening, especially to our veterans that work at Liquid Trucking. We greatly appreciate all of you guys. We can't do this show without all of you employees at Liquid Trucking. So please understand that when I say I appreciate you, I do mean each and every last one of you, whether you've been on this show or not. Even if you've just clicked subscribe or clicked listen, we can't thank you enough. And to our veterans out there, thank you for protecting our freedoms. Thank you for protecting our great nation's borders. Thank you for keeping America the best country in the world. Hands down, back-to-back World War champs. Never even once have American football teams lost the Super Bowl. Never once. I think maybe a Canadian team won the World Series once, but that was clearly an anomaly, okay? How many NBA titles do the rest of these European countries have? I know, 0. And I'm sure there's some Stanley Cups on the wall up there in Canada somewhere, but we all know the Detroit Red Wings have a lot more, and so do the Blackhawks and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think even Las Vegas has got one. So listen, America, the beautiful, the great, the best country on earth because of our veterans that help protect our freedoms. It goes unsaid a lot, man. There's a lot of men and women out there wearing American flags on their sleeve, keeping us safe every single day. And I certainly can speak for the entire team at the Liquid Trucking Podcast when I say thank you all for your service. God bless. Happy Veterans Day. Keep the shiny side up and stay safe out there, Liquid drivers. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning in and being the gold standard of drivers on the road. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and tune in next week for another episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast.